Will Diddy really walk free today? After nearly a year behind bars, Sean Diddy Combs just dodged the most serious charges of his life. The courtroom was stunned when the jury returned a split verdict, clearing him of racketeering and sex trafficking, yet finding him guilty on 2 federal charges tied to prostitution. And now, in a last-minute move that's shocking even veteran court watchers, his lawyers are asking the judge to let him walk out of jail today and return to his mansion in Florida. This isn't just another celebrity legal drama. This is a music mogul once worth hundreds of millions, now fighting to avoid decades behind bars. The testimonies were graphic, the witnesses were famous, and what happened inside that courtroom is nothing short of explosive. How did Diddy beat the charges that could have buried him for life? Why are prosecutors still pushing for prison time? And will the judge actually let him go free today? Let's break it all down, because this case is far from over. It started with a raid that nobody saw coming. In September 2024, federal agents swarmed Sean Combs' properties on both coasts, his homes in Los Angeles and Miami, lit up by flashing lights and helicopters overhead. For decades, Diddy had been seen as untouchable, a chart-topping mogul, brand empire builder, and one of the last old-school power players in hip-hop. But that morning, everything changed. The charges were serious. Authorities claimed Combs was at the center of a sprawling criminal network, one that went far beyond music. What started as whispers of misconduct exploded into full-blown federal indictments. Allegations of manipulation, coercion, and organized abuse surfaced, and when Diddy was finally taken into custody and booked at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, it marked the first time he'd faced the full force of the justice system. But the signs had been building for years. Civil lawsuits had already begun to stack up, most notably the shocking suit filed by his ex, Cassie Ventura. That case was quietly settled in late 2023, but it cracked something wide open. After that, more accusers came forward, more headlines, more lawsuits, and prosecutors began circling. Still, few believed it would lead to actual jail time until it did. But that was only the beginning. When the indictment dropped, it read like a Hollywood crime script, only this time, it was real. Sean Combs wasn't just accused of isolated bad behavior. Prosecutors said he was the architect of a dark and elaborate scheme, using his fame, his wealth, and his industry connections to control and exploit people behind the scenes. The charges? Racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transporting individuals for prostitution. If convicted on all counts, he was facing what could amount to a life sentence. The government's case painted Diddy not as a celebrity, but as a crime boss, someone who used his music empire as a front. Allegedly, he flew women across state lines to participate in what prosecutors described as orchestrated sex acts, some of which reportedly involved hired male sex workers. The case was brutal, uncomfortable, and highly publicized. But what really shocked people wasn't just the charges, it was the list of names that started to get pulled into the orbit of the case. And when the trial began, the witness list made it clear. This wouldn't be a quiet fight. The courtroom became a battleground. Over 29 days, jurors sat through raw, often disturbing testimony from 34 witnesses. Prosecutors built their case piece by piece, revealing what they claimed was a culture of control, secrecy, and sexual abuse under Combs' watch. 2 witnesses stole the spotlight: Combs' former partner Cassie Ventura and another woman, identified only as Jane. Both women described being pressured into sexual encounters they never agreed to, events they said were staged, recorded, and sometimes involved other people watching. These weren't one-off incidents. They spoke about recurring freak-offs or hotel nights, names allegedly used by Combs himself to describe these orchestrated events. The emotional toll of their testimonies was palpable. Cassie went so far as to accuse Diddy of raping her near the end of their 11-year relationship, a claim that, while not part of the criminal charges in this trial, sent a chilling ripple through the courtroom. And it wasn't just accusers. Rapper Kid Cudi, who had once publicly fallen out with Diddy, was called to the stand. So was singer Dawn Richard, another former collaborator. Their testimonies didn't accuse Combs of direct abuse. but they confirmed the environment was off, strange, secretive, controlled. But as intense as the prosecution's case was, the defense made a risky move. They didn't call a single witness. After 2 days of tense deliberations, the jury returned with their decision. The courtroom was silent as the foreperson read the verdict. Not guilty on racketeering conspiracy. Not guilty on sex trafficking. But then, guilty. 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, each count carrying up to 10 years in prison. It wasn't a complete win for the prosecution, but it wasn't a total victory for Combs either. It was a legal gray zone, and a dangerous one, because while he escaped the most damning charges, those 2 guilty counts still carry real prison time. 20 years behind bars is still on the table, and the clock is ticking. Just hours after the verdict dropped, Combs' legal team made their move. His attorney, Mark Agnifilo, stood before the judge and proposed something that caught everyone off guard. He wanted Diddy released immediately. No delay, no waiting for sentencing, just walk out of the courtroom and go home. To his Florida residents, Agnifilo said, as if it were a minor detail. "Are you proposing that Mr. Combs leave the courtroom and walk outside?" the judge asked. "That is my proposal," Agnifilo replied. The moment felt surreal. After all the allegations, the nationwide coverage, the testimonies, and the years of buildup, was Combs really about to just walk out the front door? Judge Arun Subramanian didn't say yes or no, not yet. Instead, he told both sides to submit their arguments by 1 p.m. the same day. Only then would he decide whether Diddy would walk free or remain behind bars until sentencing. And while the courtroom cleared, one thing became obvious. This fight was far from over. Diddy's lawyers knew exactly what they were doing. They didn't call any witnesses, not because they didn't have any, but because they didn't want to distract from their strategy. Their entire defense rested on 2 ideas: consent and lack of proof. They claimed every encounter the prosecution highlighted was consensual, that the women were adults, that no one was forced to do anything. That yes, some of the stories sounded dark, but sounding dark doesn't make it illegal. They attacked the credibility of key witnesses, especially Cassie and Jane, accusing them of painting a distorted version of events, motivated by lawsuits, book deals, or just revenge. And by refusing to put Diddy on the stand or call in character witnesses, they kept the case razor-focused. No distractions, no emotional pleas, just questions about evidence. And somehow, it worked, at least partially. But even with the biggest charges cleared, the battle outside the courtroom is just heating up.